Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Neha Singh, and on behalf of IIP Raigad, welcome you all to today's CME. Friends, World Immunization Week is celebrated in the last week of April, and the aim is to highlight as well as to promote the use of vaccine to protect people of all ages against diseases. Today, IIP Raigad is celebrating the week by arranging a special program on immunization. First of all, I would like to invite our president, Dr. Pramod Wankade sir, to say a few words. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you very much. And good evening to all our respected expert, Dr. Nitin Shah sir, and all dignitaries, Dr. Sunita madam, our past president, Dr. Chitra Kulkarni, past vice president. I'm seeing Dr. Jitendra Gawani, also president, Navi Mumbai, and other dignitaries on the board, of the board, and my dear friends. First of all, I will extend and I will congratulate on behalf of this World Immunization Week, started from 24th to 30th April. And on behalf of that, we have arranged this lecture. Dear friends, we know that immunization is a part and parcel of our practice. It's a major part of our practice. And to know more about it, to have more knowledge about it, we should know new recommendations. We should drop our previous ill-fitted recommendations. So get enlightened with this more knowledge. We have got a stalwart expert, Dr. Nitin Shah sir. Actually, Nitin Shah is very closely associated with Raigad IIP, though he is in Mumbai, but I think his heart is in Raigad IIP. He never revealed our mistake request. So that's why we have arranged this lecture. Let us hear some word of wisdom from him. Thank you very much. Thank you, Neha. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Friends, the topic for today's academic talk show is immunization update in children, and the guest panel for guest is Dr. Nitin Shah sir. I would like to invite Dr. Rajendra Chandorkar sir as moderator of the program, and he will be introducing the our guest, and he will be proceeding the other events.
Thank you, Neha. Respected guest faculty, Dr. Nitin Shah sir, my senior colleagues and delegate friends. I suppose Dr. Nitin Shah sir, he is a celebrity speaker of India and he does not need any introduction. Everybody knows him. He is the well-known celebrity vaccinologist of our country, India. He is the head of Department of Pediatrics in Hinduja Hospital. He was past president of IIP India, and many more presentations and papers on his name. He has written many books also, authored many books also. So really, he does not require any introduction. In fact, I would take this opportunity to thank the organizers of IIP Raigad, our president Pramodji Wankade sir, my friend Vikas and Dhananjay, for bestowing upon this responsibility to me. In fact, a back-to-back moderation of academic sessions. Last time, only 10 days back, I moderated one session on liver disorders in children. And I'm so excited to interact with Dr. Nitin Shah sir. I distinctly remember in 2017, we had a Raigad Medical Association conference, and sir had come over there as a faculty to speak and share his thoughts on vaccination in children. And I had physically interacted with Dr. Nitin Shah sir, and Dr. Damankar sir also was there during that conference as guest faculties. So friends, in pediatric practice, we happen to see infectious patients a lot. But of late, after pandemic of COVID-19, we have been hardly seeing non-COVID infectious patients in our OPD. OPDs are going slack, and indoor patients, there are no indoor patients. In fact, apart from infections, as far as vaccination is concerned, so many so-called optional vaccines are available in government sector, like rotaviral vaccine, pneumococcal vaccine, and we are not left with good vaccines apart from typhoid, hepatitis A, chickenpox vaccine, and flu vaccine and HPV vaccine. So pediatric sector is really suffering a lot in this year, like never before in past 5 years. But anyways, I hope all these remaining vaccines will also be included in government sector, and we will be like hopeless and helpless as far as vaccination sector goes. Anyways, I have got a special interest in this vaccinology and infection, and I write for local newspapers also regarding vaccines. And I personally divide the vaccines in two groups: traditional vaccines and modern vaccines. In traditional vaccines, I generally would include all the universal immunization program vaccines, and in modern vaccines, I would include the optional vaccine, the so-called the vaccines which we discuss with parents and give those vaccines. So with this brief introduction, I would like to share the screen and I would like to go to the questionnaires. The pattern of this virtual CME would be my presentation and the oral discussion would be probably of 40 minutes with Dr. Nitin Shah, sir. We would probably finish that discussion and we will keep 15 minutes for face-to-face interaction with other delegates who are attending to this virtual CM. Is the screen visible to you?
Yeah, put it on a video, slide mode, slideshow mode.
It's not going on.
No, you can see on the down, if you see down, you see that wine bottle like shape next to that page. Yeah, on the right, on your right.
Here?
No, that's right. That one.
Okay.
Perfect. To go to your first slide.
Yes. So, sir, with this brief introduction, I come to my questionnaire. And the first question I would prefer to ask you on combination vaccines. Like, what is the authenticity of word painless vaccine? Should we really use this word or not? In fact, the people or parents use this word,
Correct.
but we have got habit of using painless words since the parents use it. So, is the word authentic? Should we use it?
So no, you should not use it because around 1 to 2% of the patient who receive this combination with AP vaccine do receive significant pain. So it's not really painless in that sense. And if you have assured someone that it's a painless vaccine and then make them spend, and if the child gets pain, then there can be a lot of conflict. So you should say a vaccine which has less side effects. So you can say less pain. I think less pain is not preferred.
Would be a better word.
Right.
Yes. And sir,
I think more importantly, you should stress upon them that number one, if someone has had severe reaction with the wholesale vaccine in the past, it's better to use DTaP vaccine because it is less pain. Number two, the 4 side effects which were taken as contraindication in past, namely the febrile seizures, then HHE, that is hypotonic hyporesponsive episode, incessant crying, hypothermia. These 4 things are much less, almost 10-fold lesser with this AP vaccine. So while pain is something which the parents are more worried, I think we should be more worried about this adverse effect, which are not contraindication, but they're serious enough to scare the parents. So I think from that point of view, AP vaccines are, and till IPV combo standalone vaccine was available, now it's available, but past when it was not available, the only way you could give full dose IPV was by using this combination vaccine. So from all that point of view, it was good to use this combination vaccine.
Right. And sir, so rare of the rarest side effects which happen with painless vaccines, so-called painless vaccines, are due to pertussis or any other compound, because pertussis you are using a cellular pertussis in this combination.
So it's usually because pertussis. The difference between WP and AP side effects are all because of the pertussis compound.
Okay. Sir, previously, a few months back, we used to use a combination of varicella and MMR. Now that's not available. Why it is not available now?
It's not available because it's in short supply. So you remember, varicella vaccine is produced from the varicella strain, and varicella strain, no matter which vaccine you talk, they all have the same father. That is the Oka strain, and the Oka strain in Japan is the one which actually gives the seed virus to all the manufacturers. Then they process the seed virus to their best capability. more they are able to dilute it, more doses they get. But that's not universal for all the manufacturers. Sometimes the whole batch can fail because of hyper attenuation. So in general, varicella strains are in short supply, and that's the reason why combination vaccines are short supply. So whatever combination vaccine is made is not even enough for Canada and USA. And I must tell you here, whether we like it or not, the fact is that of 100 rupees, that is the turnover of vaccination in general, 70 rupees is in US and Canada. Another 15-20 is in Europe and Australia, and then remaining 5 is in the rest of the world. So what happens to you and me doesn't bother these vaccine manufacturers. So we have to depend on our own manufacturer. And I'm so happy that we have not one, but now 3 or 4 major manufacturers which make world-class vaccine within India. And you can see in COVID what's happened. If you see the lower income country group, less than 5% have received 2 doses and less than 10% received 1 dose. We look at India, almost 80, 85%, 90%, like Mumbai, 100% have received first dose and the second dose. That's because we had our own manufacturer.
Right. Right. So, sir, if that combination is available, you would prefer that combination, right?
So that combination, when you give it for the first time in the second year of life, the incidence of fever is higher than when given separately. So when the fever incidence is higher, it also would mean secondary febrile conversion episodes will be higher. So 1 in 8,000 to 10,000 vaccinees may develop a febrile conversion, more than what should happen as a background rate or when you use this separately. So yes, I would use a combination because febrile conversion is something which if you can manage well, there's no problem. But technically, it is more expensive than given separately, and it has some incidence of febrile conversion, at least with the first dose. So that is the reason why combination vaccines may not be always preferred.
Right. And sir, a few years back, I have used this combination, hepatitis A and hepatitis B. Right. Now it's not there. And what was the rationale using these combinations together?
So the combination was made essentially as a vaccine for travelers. Okay. The people who will go for endemic, say someone coming to India with high prevalence of hepatitis B, and of course also hepatitis A even now. So you will be worried about both these infections. So they had this combination vaccine, so you don't have to take multiple doses, multiple pricks at the same time. But now that hepatitis B is a universal vaccine all over the world, a lot of birth cohorts have already received it. So there was no point in continuing the combination because there will be hardly any takers. So they have discontinued. In fact, that's not available. It's withdrawn.
Right.
And it is so sad, Rajendra, you should know that the original brand, Angerix B, which is the pioneering brand in the world, has been withdrawn from India.
Okay.
Because hepatitis B vaccine is under the DPSC, that is price control. So they just cannot afford the price that the price control is asking for. So that is sad, but it was wrong.
Right. Sir, regarding flu vaccine, there was suddenly the flu vaccine was in limelight in mid phase of COVID-19 pandemic.
Right.
And what was the reason for that? There are a lot of discussion going on in newspapers, media, amongst us, amongst doctors.
Right.
What was the real reason behind
it? So the reason behind is that it got, I would say it got its limelight in a true way. Because we have always underutilized flu vaccine in our day-to-day practice. When COVID was not there and the COVID-associated pneumonia, need for hospitalization, oxygen, ventilation, deaths, and etc., were so scary that people suddenly started remembering that one should not get respiratory infection or pneumonia. So when you use masks and you sanitize your hand and you remain locked down, obviously even flu went down, but it was not out. And for the first year, when the pandemic was there from, say, February 2020 till almost January 2021 for us, until April 2021 for the mass, there was no COVID vaccine. So what do? So stress was that you prevent other respiratory infections, which may also happen. And that's how PCV13 use went up in adults and influenza vaccine use went up in general in adults as well as in children.
Right.
And if you ask, is there a correlation between these two diseases? Then you'll be surprised that there is actually a paper. I don't know. I mean, it's not replicated anywhere else, but there's actually a paper which looked at some more than 300,000 people who had received, who had developed COVID. They were stratified whether they had received flu or not received flu recently. The severity and incidence of COVID was lesser in those who had received flu vaccine as compared to those who had not received. So that would be an indirect benefit in that sense.
Right. And sir, the main worry in flu infections is swine flu. I have not seen a single case of swine flu in Alibag after 2009 when we faced something like epidemic or pandemic situation in India and world.
Correct. So,
yes,
so it's not correct to say that you don't see swine flu, because if you see of the influenza cases that are
yes,
reported from India to
yes,
the international flu net, that is the flu net is a network of flu laboratories which they send regularly throughout the year samples of respiratory infection swabs and see whether there is flu or no. So that tells you the positivity rate, and they also find out which is the flu virus, if at all, if it's found. So around 1 to 2% of the sample will be positive during non-peak time, and can go up to 5 to 10% or even more, depending upon the outbreaks. Now, if you see out of this, what the type B, both type B together is anywhere from 15 to 40%. The remaining is H1N1 or H3N2. And H3N2 is more common than H1N1, but it's not that H1N1 is not seen. So I
okay,
would say roughly 20-30% is H1N1,
okay,
30-40% is H3N2, and the remaining 20-25% is either of the type B.
okay, right, sir. And killed vaccine is nowadays prepared quadrivalent vaccine, which we are giving these
Yes.
days. But I have taken live vaccine of this
Yes.
flu, and the vaccine was very convenient to take, and it is not available now.
Correct.
So
So
would you?
the live vaccine is in the markets in Russia for donkey's years.
Okay,
And what we had is the technology transfer by at the base of WHO from Russia to India, serum that is.
right,
And there is another international vaccine available from Mid Johnson in USA, which is used
okay,
entirely in USA and some other Western countries.
yes,
These are two different vaccines which are available. What
right,
was available in India was through serum, the Russian vaccine. Now, this is cold adapted vaccine, so it only replicates in the deep cavity of nasal mucosa, where the
right,
temperature are lower, and stops replicating when it comes to bronchi or in the respiratory tract, so it doesn't lead to disease. It was made in 2009 as a response to swine flu in India. But
okay,
unfortunately, it took 8 to 10 months for the vaccine to come. And by the time the vaccine came, the disease almost disappeared. So huge stock of the live vaccine was
vaccine,
withdrawn and was
yes,
actually destroyed. And that was a
right,
very sore point for serum. They continue to make it for the next 1 or 2 years. But what happened is, in the last 6 seasons, as far as the US vaccine is concerned, there was an
yes,
advisory by CDC not to use live vaccine because it had zero efficacy. I don't
okay,
know why, but maybe from trivalent it switched to quadrivalent, the efficacy became zero. But only since recently, since last season and this season, the US CDC again says that you could use live vaccine as much as the killed vaccine. But because of the lack of confidence
yes,
and in general not use rampantly, serum lost interest and they stopped making this vaccine. That's why it's not available.
yes. And sir, which is the best season in India, our country?
Correct.
Like in southern India and northern India, the seasons differ. So
Right.
which would be the best season?
So we are at near equator, so we have both southern and northern peaks. But the northern peaks are usually seen in the cold parts of the world, country, that is Kashmir, Jammu, northeastern states, and
Okay,
of course sometime in Delhi. Whereas rest of the country, especially Maharashtra, Gujarat, Goa, Karnataka, south and west, has a southern peak which is during the monsoon. The only exception is that in Tamil Nadu the monsoon starts late by November, December. So they have a peak somewhere in October, November, and that's why they also may use northern vaccine. So barring these 3 or 4 exceptions, the entire country should use southern vaccine, which comes somewhere in April, May, as it has already come now. Not
right,
one, but 2 brands are available.
yes,
And that is given in time to cover the monsoon peak, which will happen from June to August.
yes,
So
yes,
we should use southern vaccine.
yes, sir.
And
And
for
sir,
some reason, suppose you
yes,
are using northern vaccine, try to convert to the southern cycle from the next opportunity available. So
yes,
suppose someone had received last October, November northern, either because the child was born that time or was eligible only that time. You can either convert to southern this time by giving another dose within 6 to 8 months of the last dose, or next year as whatever the parents decide.
okay, okay. And sir, very various indications are there of this vaccine, but would you specifically recommend this vaccine to an adolescent patient or a child suffering from asthma?
I give it to every person who comes to my clinic and tell them that influenza is common at all ages, especially the two different extremes of age, that is children below the age of 5 years and people above the 65 years. But in between also it can happen, especially when new pandemic H1N1 strain had predilection for young people. 10 to 15 years was the peak. So I proffer this vaccine to every child who comes to my clinic.
Yes. Now, sir, I move on to HPV vaccine.
Yes.
There are 3 vaccines available: bivalent,
There are only 2
quadrivalent.
now. Bivalent is withdrawn.
Yeah,
From
quadrivalent
world
and
as well as from
9-valent
India.
vaccine.
Yeah.
Yes. So now we used to give for quadrivalent vaccine
Right.
last few months, years. Now suddenly 9-valent vaccine is there, and it is so costlier, and it is making confusion amongst patients, amongst doctors. And now we are also in dilemma whether to give quadrivalent or 9-valent. So what would you recommend, sir?
So world over, both quadrivalent and 9-valent are available. For the simple reason, the 9-valent, though is more effective, is more expensive. So several countries have this both vaccines available. Some have completely switched from quadrivalent to 9-valent. Some have kept both and given choice to the parents, especially when either there is complete payment by the parents or there is a co-payment by parents, then they take a decision because the difference of the cost is all over the world. Now the quadrivalent vaccines world over will cover around 72 to 73% oncogenic strain, which is 16 and 18. 6 and 11 is only for the benign warts. It's not for the malignancy. And when I say malignancy, I am not saying only cervical cancer, but also vaginal, vulvar, anal cancer, penile cancer in men, and also oropharyngeal cancers and benign papilloma. Besides quadrivalent and 9-valent also preventing the warts, genital warts, which are actually more difficult to treat than a cervical cancer. But cervical cancer, because it has the maximum incidence as compared to all other cancer, and it has a high morbidity and mortality, because people come late, the mortality is almost 45 to 50%. That's the reason why the quadrivalent will cover around 72% of the 16-18, which is 70. So it covers 16-18, which is 70% of the cause of cervical cancer. Whereas 9-valent, having added 5 more strains, covers around 92 to 94% worldwide. Now in India, quadrivalent covers around 81 to 82% strains, which is 16-18, and 9-valent will cover almost 97 to 98%. And I'm telling you, Rajan, you believe me, cancer is a dreaded disease. Cancer is difficult to treat. It has morbidity, mortality, and a lot of expense involved. So if someone can afford, there is no reason why we should not give 9-valent. We should not be afraid of telling about cost of 9-valent and leave it to them. Then you say, I also have quadrivalent, which is costing, say, whatever, 3,000, 4,000 compared to 10,000 with 9-valent. You choose which is best, but cancer is always better prevented, and more you prevent, better it is. Leave it to their next season, next time when they come, they are more prepared to say and which one to take. So speaking of myself, because I also treat oncology patient, I am able to convince with a lot of, sort of vigor and strength to say that no, this is cancer, you cannot play with it. But still, I would use almost my 60 to 70% use is still quadrivalent, but I have switched to 9-valent in 30 to 40% patients.
Yes, and sir, now pediatricians, we have not been vigorously promoting this vaccine. Probably it was a cost factor, but should we vigorously promote it in various campaigns? Like we have many campaigns on behalf of Rotary, Lions. So should we vigorously promote this vaccine?
So generally, you promote vaccines which have an immediate benefit, like corona, influenza, etc., polio. In campaign mode. These vaccines, which are of course very important, but they don't show you the immediate benefit. If you try to do it in a campaign mode, especially through some private efforts, it is misconstrued by the community that is profit-making venture. I would avoid doing that. I would rather create awareness instead of giving vaccine. So you can give it pamphlets, have talks on HPV. Why only HPV? You have talks on sexual problems in adolescents, smoking, drug abuse, and also tag this HPV. And then that will have better. And then you say contact your doctor for the further details.
Correct. Sir, now I move on to Japanese encephalitis vaccine.
Yes.
It appears that government schedule in leaflet of government schedule, this vaccine is there. So people just keep on asking about this vaccine. Should we really give it? But we are not staying in the area which is endemic for Japanese encephalitis. It is more so common in Nagpur and that belt like Vidarbha. We hardly see sporadic cases also. I have not seen a single case of Japanese encephalitis. Not come across a single case. So should we recommend to every patient?
So JE vaccine cards of the government are printed for whole of state. And in a lot of part of the state of Maharashtra, JE is endemic, so it's part of the national program or the state program. That's why it is there. So it is not that just because it's there, someone is going to give it. So JE vaccine is part of the public health in districts where JE is endemic, as decided by the central government and state government from time to time. We started from some 17 districts when I was president 2006 to now more than 120 districts in the country in just next 5 to 10 years or 15 years. So the best way to use JE vaccine is it part of the public health in your area? If it is, which means it's endemic area, you will give it to all your patients in private. If it is not, then you will give this vaccine only for one, those who ask for, or two, those who are visiting JE endemic areas and going to venture into outdoor experience, like staying in jungle resorts, staying in fields, going to village where they're going to be in farms, etc. Children are going to roam around in the village. So then you should give this vaccine to those. But otherwise, to give it routinely is not correct.
Yes. And sir, what about meningococcal vaccine? Because up till now we have been given to giving this vaccine to the students who are going to abroad, like UK, US, and Africa. Now, should we routinely recommend it?
Correct. So, I mean, pardon me for saying this, but it's an excellent vaccine in search of an indication.
Yes.
Because the indication actually is for those who are at risk, like selectomized patient, a cochlear implant, immunocompromised, steroid, nephrotic, etc. Of course, there you will give it. All cancer patient after they are long-term survivors, when they're off chemotherapy, etc. But to give it to every normal child, I don't do it in my practice. I know several pediatricians who do it in Bombay and in some other parts of the country. Well, they might be right in their own way because the vaccine is licensed for use, but I don't promote it. It's not printed in my vaccine card.
Right. Okay. Okay, so now I come to PCV vaccine, pneumococcal vaccine. Like, I mean, there is no new to tell in pneumococcal vaccine, but what about an extra dose of polysaccharide pneumococcal conjugate vaccine? Where do we recommend it?
To whom?
To whom we recommend? Should we recommend?
To whom we recommend is the question. So it should be given only for those who are at risk of severe pneumococcal disease, and that includes people who are immune compromised, sickle cell anemia, selectomized patient or S-clinic patient, and cochlear implant patient. These are the only indication of giving polysaccharide vaccine. Beyond that, to use it in a normal child or a normal adult I think is a crime, because when you give these, so it's actually better known as PPSV 23. It's a pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine. So PPSV 23. That vaccine, if it's given more than twice, it leads to hyper-responsiveness.
Okay.
So suppose you are given to a child who is 3 years today. Okay. And then now at 6 years he needs splenectomy for his ITP. He won't be able to give it.
Yes.
And there's an injustice to that child, right?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Sir, I move on to typhoid vaccine. TCV is pretty common vaccine which we have been using. But the other vaccine is still available, polysaccharide typhoid vaccine, which gives lesser immunity, like just 3 years ago to give. Why it is available? I mean, why the vaccine is not scrapped?
So the conjugate vaccine is not part of national program.
Okay.
So because of that, polysaccharide vaccine is a licensed vaccine, so it will be made available till the time the license is withdrawn either by manufacturer or by the DCGI. DCGI will never withdraw the license of polysaccharide for the simple reason that it's not part of the national program, so it doesn't affect them. So I think it's we who are the custodians of the pediatrician, pediatric patient, who should take a conscious decision that you will not use polysaccharide vaccine now on.
Yes.
At least not for primary vaccination. So you would give 1 or 2 doses of conjugate typhoid vaccine, and that's it. And I don't think so. There is a family or a patient who can afford our fees and cannot afford 1 dose of TCV.
Yes, definitely, sir. Now I move on to hepatitis vaccine. Now hepatitis vaccine also gives pretty good immunity. So why not a single shot of hepatitis A? Do we require?
So live vaccine single dose is definitely the standard of care, both from IAP, WHO, and manufacturer's point of view. We have a long-term study in India from our multicentric study where I was part of it, 5-year long-term. Then there is a now 15-year long-term data from KEM single study center and 17-year long-term data from China. And all of them show that even for that long, the seroconversion is so high. Titers are beyond 20 in most of the vaccinated population. And even if for those where the antibody might have been lost, there will be an endemonic response when they come in contact because there is a very strong T-cell immunity with hepatitis A vaccine. Coming to killed vaccine, you can't use it in your day-to-day practice. Okay. But Argentina was one country which used Chiron's attenuated, Chiron's killed hepatitis A vaccine. You know, it was available. I forget the name of that vaccine. Chiron Panacea was had made it available for some time. But anyway, that vaccine they used a single dose in Argentina in a public health. Okay. And they eradicated hepatitis A and a subsequent hepatic failure because of hepatitis A and the liver transplant. But that's when you give a massive number of doses to a lot of people, which will induce also herd immunity. So it's good as a single dose for public health, but not for individual practice. Same like for pneumococcal, public health is 2+1. You know, UK today has made it 1+1. They just give 1 dose of PCV13 in the first year and 1 dose at 10 to 12 months. They can do it in public health after having achieved a lot of herd effect, but we should not do it in our day-to-day practice.
Yes, sir. And as far as hepatitis E infection is concerned, out of curiosity, in the affordable class of patient, I generally do hepatitis E and hepatitis A antibodies. I come to know that hepatitis C also is pretty common, and epidemics also go on infrequently.
Yes.
So, any research on hepatitis E vaccine?
So hepatitis E vaccine is available in China, but only for people above the age of 18 years, adults. Now that vaccine is being tried for pediatric population. The studies are going on. If I'm not mistaken, at least more than one manufacturer of Indian origin are in talk with that Chinese manufacturer to bring that vaccine here. But they will have to do a study of that vaccine in children. So maybe in next 5 years you will have an hepatitis E vaccine. Whatever hepatitis E vaccine that is available in China seems to be very good.
Okay. And about hepatitis C?
Hep C, no, not available. Hep C, no one is invested with. Hep C is not that common. Hep C is mainly problem of either sexual route or blood product. So the numbers are so small, and Hep C today is treatable with antiviral drugs. So really, no one has applied their mind to the Hep C. Because even if Hep C comes, you are not going to go to everyone, because everyone is not going to be, exposed to Hep C. So Hep A, Hep B, Hep E, yes, but Hep C and Hep D are not going to be in pipeline.
Yes. And sir, regarding hepatitis B vaccine, now
B for baby.
Hepatitis B. We professionals, health professionals, we take this vaccine after 20 years. I mean, the vaccine gives immunity for say 20 years. So should we do antibody titers or serum titers or anti-hepatitis B antibody, and then we take vaccine, or we routinely take vaccine? Like we had done antibodies in some 100 doctors in our region who had taken hepatitis B vaccine, and we came to know that 50% doctors were having still good antibody titers in their blood. So
so the standard of care is that once you've taken 3 doses of hepatitis B vaccine in your life,
yes,
and if you had shown seroconversion, which would be shown in more than 98% of children and more than 92% of adults, then you don't need a booster lifelong, and you don't need any additional dose, even if you are in contact with hepatitis B through needle stick or blood or whatever. But if you haven't shown in past seroconversion, then when you get an exposure, you do an antibody titer. If they are negative, then you presume you had not seroconverted.
Yes.
You take 3 doses and you repeat a titer after 3 doses.
Correct.
And you also take hepatitis B immunoglobulin.
Yes.
But if you have shown seroconversion in past, then you don't need to take hepatitis B vaccine. The boosters are not required. There's no need to do titers.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for this feedback. I move on to anti-rabies vaccine.
Yes.
And the recent schedule has changed. We have up till now used to give 0, 1, 0, 3, 7, 14, and 25 vaccines we should give doses.
Yes.
Now, what is the recent schedule?
So the recent schedule is 0, 3, 7, and then 4 doses between 14 to 28 days anytime.
Okay.
Now, this was necessitated out of compulsion when these anti-rabies vaccines were not easily available in Western country. Because there is hardly any rabies there, so the vaccines were not easily available.
Right.
So the CDC did a study to find out how many people who had developed breakthrough rabies developed it between 4th and 5th dose, and there was not a single case. That means they knew that if you have taken 4 doses, the 4th dose being as early as 0, 3, 7, 14, right?
Okay.
So that protects you from rabies. So they said, why need the 5th dose at all? So they dropped it, and then they said the 4th dose could be anywhere from 14 to 28. Okay. But now the schedule is approved by WHO, approved by CDC USA, approved by many countries, approved by IAP, but it's still not part of the approval by the national NCDC in India. So NCDC in public still uses 5 doses. So I would say to err on the safer side, use 5 doses till the time it becomes official, because this is one disease where there is certain death. You don't want to take a chance by just try to save 1 dose. So I still use 5 doses in my patients.
Yes. And sir,
you have to give 5 doses, means the 5th dose as per the original schedule in immune compromised host.
Okay.
So suppose you're malignancy patient, steroid, nephrotic, this, that, primary immunotherapy, all of them, these abbreviated 4 doses is not correct. You have to give 5 doses.
Okay. And sir, recently I saw a patient, and I gave 1 shot IM, and I called him to follow up. But he did not come in government setup. He took intradermal vaccine.
Correct.
And the mother said that they are going to give intradermal vaccines, remaining 3. So would that give sufficient immunity?
Yes. If you give intradermal route as per the Indian protocol, which is essentially the Thai protocol, then it gives you 100% protection against rabies, provided you also have taken the rabies immunoglobulin or the monoclonal antibody if it is class 3 bite. So if someone has taken 1 dose, I am with you, and then switch to ID, there's no problem.
Yes, I got the answer for the other question also.
If you take an ID and someone switch to IM, you have to give complete 4 doses. You can't rely. So you discard the dose which you given by other route previously.
Yes. Yes. And suppose if out of curiosity, someone has taken, a group has taken intramuscular vaccines, 5 doses properly, and the other group has taken intradermal vaccine. The efficacy would be same, 100%.
Efficacy is 100%.
Yes.
This was
Now
originally shown in Thailand, where the vaccines were so expensive, and
Yes.
there used to be a lot of dog bites and cat bites in Thailand, as bad as in India. And that's where the group of these researchers, they did a study with intradermal route, and they proved it works as well. We also have intradermal route studies from India.
But the same is not applicable for polio, sir, right?
Polio intradermal is, if you use 3 doses of intradermal, is as good as 3 doses of intramuscular in seroconversion. But titers will be lower. But titers may not matter in rabies, because what you need is first 20 days of cover. Titer may not matter for polio today, because all you need is seroconversion, because anyway there is no wild polio.
Okay. And sir, now I come. Yes, sir, is speaking something.
No. I think someone else is making noise.
Yes. Now I come to the most hotter vaccine these days, which is discussed. And there was one statement. I think it was a paper probably written by Dr. Samil Dalwai, and the statement was, "Children are made scapegoat for COVID-19 vaccination." Is this a correct statement?
So what did he mean? I don't know. If he meant that children should not receive vaccine, then I completely disagree with the statement.
Okay.
But if you say that children are given vaccine without proper studies, etc., then it would depend on which vaccine you are using. So the vaccine which are available in Western country like Moderna, Pfizer,
Right.
Covovax, which is Novavax internationally, some of the Chinese vaccine, the Sinopharm vaccine, etc., have been extensively studied in children as small as 3 years. So those vaccines, there is no problem. And now we have the Zycovid, which is studied in children. We have vaccine which is studied in children from 3 years onwards, and we have study on Corbevax in children. So there is study for all the 3 vaccines. Of course, the study is not efficacy; it is safety and immunogenicity. But I don't think now you will be able to do any efficacy study, because the disease is so low, and most of the children are already immune by natural infection in the past. So I think now, if a child receives vaccine, it's more like booster rather than primary, because if you do the antibody titers, 9 out of 10 children will be positive even before the first dose of vaccine.
Right. So how many doses should we recommend?
They should still receive 2 doses, because the natural antibody, even after a massive infection, are not protective for long term. So if children, most of them had asymptomatic infection, so the titer may not be that high. So I would give 2 doses, depending upon which vaccine you're talking about, 1 month apart.
Yes, and sir, there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy, COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy going on. And what would be the various reasons? Both. I would rather more for adult and less for children.
No, adults generally, adults overall in the country, adult vaccination has been really successful. The problem is in Maharashtra actually has a little more hesitancy than other parts of the country, especially rural Maharashtra. But hesitancy is there for every vaccine. Hesitancy has a lot of reasons. One is perceived need. Do I need it now? I had already COVID. Why do I need? Are the vaccines safe? I have to travel for so long. I have read in paper it leads to deaths. So these are all the issues which we have to tackle when you counsel a person or a family which is hesitant to any vaccine. And that true for COVID-19 also.
Yes. And now I move on to booster 2 at between 4 to 6 years, triple polio. Now triple is hardly we get. It is not available in this part. Alibag, it is not available. So what is the option? Generally, we then opt for quadravac vaccine, which contains Hib also.
So it depends on whether you want to give WP or AP. If you want to give WP, you can ask Serum Institute to give you DPT. They may not be able to give you a single dose ampule, but they'll be able to give you a vial. So if you are really anyone is interested, you can contact Serum. They have the stock. Now, if you don't want to do all that headache, then you can give WP with Hep B or Hib. So you have both type of quadrivalent vaccine. Extra dose doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would want to give IPV at that age. Just go back. I want to give not OPV but IPV, because that's your last chance at 5 years to give an IPV booster. And believe me, there are countries with adult polio in past. The recent was Tajikistan in 2009 or 8 or 9. I'm not very sure, but there were 478 cases, 20% in adults. Before that, when I was president in 2006, Namibia had an outbreak of polio after being polio free for 10 years. 76 cases, all in adults, 100% in adults. and very high mortality and
Okay.
morbidity. So you want to give the second booster, I mean last booster of IPV at 5 years, then you have to, then you choose two choice. When IPV standalone not available, there was no
Yes.
other way but to use a IPV containing AP based vaccine. So pentaxim or
Okay.
tetraxim. Now
Okay.
tetraxim
Okay.
is there, so you can use tetraxim. But
Yes.
now you
Yes.
have standalone IPV from serum available, so you can use
Yes.
WP based DTP or DTP Hep B or DTP HEP depending on what you want to use, and IPV separately and cut down
Okay,
on
sir.
the cost.
Yes. Yes. Sir, I move on further.
Yes.
Like recently, I saw a patient who had received Penta on one leg, PCV on other leg, and intradermal IPV on arm. Now,
Correct.
so
That is
so
in the
many
public
pricks, and
health.
the child was crying for 3 days and high fever and legs were swollen. Any
So he
comments on
was
this?
crying not because he received these 3 vaccines. He was crying because he received the WP based vaccine.
Okay.
So
Yes.
30 to 40% of WP vaccine recipients develop significant pain and fever and local discomfort.
Yes.
And sometimes a nodule, which may also lead to a sterile abscess.
Yes.
That's the reason why the entire Western world stopped using WP. You must know the genesis of WP. AP didn't come out of blue moon. WP was used all over. I think in 70s, Japan had 3 deaths, which were pursued because of WP. Of course, they stopped WP. Lots of children developed pertussis and pertussis encephalitis and died. That's a separate thing. But the parents were not ready to take the WP vaccine at all. So the Japanese government actually asked the vaccine manufacturer to produce a safer pertussis vaccine. And that's how the vaccine manufacturer, not one but 9 of them, came out with their own version of AP vaccine. That's how the AP vaccine came. No developed part of the world uses WP vaccine.
Right. And sir, for many of us, they give all shots in a day, like multiple
Yes.
pricks in a day.
Right.
But few of us, they give 2 shots on one day. They maintain a gap of 2 days, and they will give another shot after a gap of 2 days. Would that be acceptable?
That's acceptable, no issue, provided the parents are ready to come. But what I would suggest in such case, then you keep a gap of 2 weeks. So typically, you give, say, a hexavalent vaccine today.
Okay.
After 2 weeks, then call them for rota and pneumococcal.
Okay.
That way, you'll have 2 visits 15 days apart to see for general health, weight, etc. And also, you'll divide the cost, because sometimes suddenly too much cost at a time, many parents don't like it.
Right. Yes. It was
But there's
the
no point in
third-
calling them after
Yes.
2 days and give. Then you keep
Yes.
a decent gap of 1 or 2 weeks at least.
Yes. Okay, sir. And now there's a child who's 7 months old from village, and he was not vaccinated. I mean, comes for vaccination now, 7 months. Not
Correct.
a single vaccine he has received.
Right.
How we proceed?
So you would give him all the vaccines. So BCG can be given. There's no need to
Yes.
do prior MT. Okay,
Right.
oral polio or IPV, of course, would need 3 doses. So
Yes.
also hepatitis B 3 doses. So also
Okay.
HEP will need 2 doses. Pneumococcal will need 2 doses.
Right.
And pertussis, DTWP or AP will need 3 doses.
Okay.
And then from there on, you tell them to come in time for
Yes,
the
come
remaining
regular.
vaccines.
Yes, sir. Now, some vaccines for girls, like as we all know, HPV, varicella, MMR. Any other important vaccine apart from these 3 vaccines for girls?
For the girls,
Yes.
I think all vaccines which are otherwise also given to boys are equally important for girls. But HPV now is a gender neutral vaccine. So even for
Yes.
boys, it is as good. The
Yes,
quadrivalent
yes,
vaccine was
yes.
not licensed for boys, so it was only a girls vaccine. But now it's a
Yes.
gender neutral vaccine. MMR, more than MMR, the rubella part. So of course now because we are giving MR, that problem is solved. Past we were giving only measles in the public health. So they had to be given separate rubella at the adolescent age to prevent congenital rubella from happening
Right.
if they become pregnant in the next few years.
Right. And sir, M is dropout from MMR in government schedule.
Right.
So
As far as the government is concerned, they think mumps is not a real public health issue. And
Okay.
mumps, though may lead to mumps, but it doesn't lead to serious side effect.
Right.
So they don't consider mumps as a part of national program till the time they have done some studies. From our point of view, mumps is equally important because now one mumps can lead to discomfort for few days.
Yes.
Second, mumps can lead to orchitis and sterility,
Right.
or oophoryitis and sterility. And mumps pancreatitis is known. Mumps
Yes.
encephalitis is known. So
Right.
in practice, I would say mumps is equally important.
Right.
And remember now Western world are seeing a lot of mumps outbreaks in adolescents.
Yes.
So if you give 2 MMR, let's say at
Yes.
15 and 18 months, it may not
Yes.
be enough for mumps till adolescence. So now they typically give 1 more MMR in the adolescent age.
But
So I would say that MMR we should give at 15 months, 5 years,
right.
and then later. Also in 9 months, of course, we are giving MMR. So 9 months, 15 months, and 5 years. The 5 years probably will see them through the adolescence.
Right. And you know the cost issues also. So adding 1
There is
M
no
to
cost.
MMR
MR
is
and
going,
MMR is the same cost.
yes,
Almost 5
but
10 rupees.
adding mums, is that going to add cost burden?
No, the
Then why it is
government doesn't go only by cost. It
Okay,
goes by the
okay.
need of the vaccine.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, vaccines which are important for adolescents, like pertussis, just now we
Yes.
said, Japanese encephalitis, HPV
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Any other vaccine which would be important for adolescents?
So adolescents, HPV is important, both boys and girls. And today, the age for the sexual debut is becoming lesser and lesser.
Right.
Children also becoming more and more mature. So HPV is must.
Yes.
JE now is part of the adult immunization in
Okay.
at least 15 to 20 districts in the country, because with the use of JE vaccines, there's a shift in the epidemiology to the right.
Yes.
That's why JE is equally important, and especially if an adolescent is going to again from a non-endemic to endemic area, then he has to be given. Pertussis, the only pertussis vaccine you can use is the Tdap vaccine, and the Tdap part, the AP part in the Tdap, works for 4 years and not beyond. So yes, in that sense, it's useful, but not as great a vaccine that we would want.
Right. So there are some special circumstances like travelers,
Yes.
traveling from India to other countries.
Yes.
Which are the various important vaccines?
So you are meningococcal for going to Hajj pilgrimage. You are meningococcal for students going to USA. Several US universities not only ask for meningococcal, but they also ask for MMR. Surely they also ask for hepatitis B, HPV, varicella, depending on which state the child is going to.
Yes.
There are travelers vaccine like cholera vaccine, which you are going to a pilgrimage where the cholera outbreaks may happen. Then you can cholera is required.
Yes.
People coming from abroad to our country, they will definitely take hepatitis A, because they can be exposed to hepatitis A.
Yes.
And the nurses going from India to Dubai or Middle East, they develop varicella there, because varicella has shifted to the right in a warm country. So a lot of adults and adolescents can get varicella. So they need to take their varicella vaccine before they go from here to there.
Right.
So these are the different travelers vaccine that that comes in my mind.
Yes, sir. And yellow fever vaccine, people generally ask, and
so
it is often not available.
So lesser and lesser countries are now required for yellow fever vaccine.
Yes.
They are becoming yellow fever free. But yes, some countries are still required. South Africa is not one of them. Okay, Kenya probably also is not one of them. So if you're going to Kenyan safari, maybe you don't need yellow fever, but you can always check it on the WHO website. So yellow fever vaccine is available in two forms. One is Russian vaccine, which is available in the public health. So if you go to a Mumbai airport or JJ hospital, GT hospital, you'll get yellow fever vaccine. Like that, many centers are there in the country now. The other yellow fever vaccine available is from Sanofi. That is Temeril. That is available through private market. The only thing is when you are given the yellow fever vaccine, your vaccination certificate is not valid. It has to be WHO approved center. So you have to apply for WHO approval for your center if you want to start doing that.
Okay. Now, immunocompromised patients, like the ones who are suffering from cancers on chemotherapy, HIV patients on long-term steroids, how do we proceed for vaccination?
So no live vaccines are given to immune-compromised host till the time they are out of the immune compromisation, which would mean HIV patient with CD4 counts has jumped with antiretroviral therapy. Patient on long-term steroids are tapered off to less than 20 milligram per day for at least a month, and cancer patient when they are off all chemotherapy for at least 6 months.
Yes.
All right. So that's the time when you can use live vaccine. Killed vaccine can be given, but they will not be effective. So generally, we don't give killed vaccine during intense phase of chemotherapy. So like 9 months in a leukemia is an intense phase, then maintenance starts. So you can give some killed vaccine like flu during this maintenance. Sometimes you can even give varicella vaccine during maintenance, but generally you want to avoid. All patients of chemotherapy of 6 months chemotherapy or 1 year, you can give all live and kill vaccine, and you will start from where it was left and give one extra dose of all the vaccine that the child has received in past, or you do an antibody titer. So suppose he has taken 3 hepatitis B, he had leukemia at 5 years, treated now 9 years over is 9 years. Anti-HB stage is more than 10, then don't give hepatitis B. If you don't want to do that, then give just 1 dose of hepatitis B. So sometimes it's easier to give 1 extra dose rather than doing antibody of all these antigens. So that's as far as this immune compromise is concerned. As far as transplant is concerned, remember solid organ transplant will be on lifelong immune suppression. So you can never give live vaccine to them. You have to finish all your live vaccine before transplant. Yeah. Whereas stem cell transplant, because there is immune reconstitution and they are off the GVHD prophylaxis or immunosuppression, generally 6 months to 1 year after the successful transplant. So you start all your killed vaccine 1 year after the transplant is successful and off immunosuppression, and all live vaccine 2 years after the
Before,
transplant is successful.
yes, yes, okay. And now, sir, there is not much to speak on immunoprophylaxis like
Correct.
hepatitis B, immunoglobulin, tetanus, rabies.
Mm.
Now, tetanus, we have not been seeing tetanus. So
Yes.
even then, the tetglove is available. So
Yes, neonatal
how
tetanus
many-
is still seen in some rural part. That's the reason why
Okay.
it's still being made available. And remember, tetanus immunoglobulin is human. So
Yes.
you are not actually breeding any horse or an animal. So there is no cruelty there.
Yes.
It's okay.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm happy if someone keeps on manufacturing tetanus
Right.
immunoglobulin because sometimes it
Okay.
may be required. You'll be surprised. 3 years back, we had one tetanus child admitted. A big boy, 6 years boy, was admitted with severe tetanus in Hinduja hospital. So it's not that we don't see it.
Yes. Yes.
And
sir,
he had
hepatitis B-
a injury
yes.
for which he was not given tetanus. He traveled from here to Gorakhpur.
Okay.
There
Yes.
he started having spasm. He was intubated. Then they airlifted him from there to Hinduja. He was with us for 2 months. Must have spent 60 lakhs on something which was prevented by tetanus toxin, which cost 10 rupees.
Yes. It's relatively cheaper, but sir, hepatitis B,
Yes.
I mean, it's so costlier.
Yes.
Since only few companies are. I mean,
Yeah. So, see, to make any specific immunoglobulin, if Indian companies are making it, usually cheaper. Like your anti-snake venom, anti-scorpion venom, anti-tetanus. You see
Right.
now monoclonal antibody against rabies, they are all cheap. But in
Right.
past, when the rabies immunoglobulin were human from abroad, they were very expensive. Same as hepatitis B. There's no Indian company making it. That's why
Okay.
it's expensive.
Yes.
But we need it for neonates who are
Okay, now-
exposed to mothers and
Yes.
for people who are like cancer patient, not taken hepatitis B vaccine. You're going to give blood products to him. So what we do is we don't give vaccine. So we give him hepatitis B immunoglobulin every 3 months, 3 doses. So 9 months are over. And then after that, once he's on maintenance, there are no blood products. So it's safe. So you need hepatitis B immunoglobulin. You need a stick injury. You will need it.
Yes. And now, sir, there is extensive promotion of rabies shield.
Yes.
Any
That's
specific
the only
reason for-
that's the only product you should use. Number one, 100% efficacious.
Yes.
Number two, absolutely no chance of anaphylaxis. Number three, so cheap.
Yes.
Now it's at the throwaway part. And now they brought half the dose. Initially, it was for 30 kilo child. You know,
Yes.
you need 3.3 units to 100 units per 2.5 ml.
Yes.
Now
yes.
there are 50 units in 1.25 ml, which is also good for 15 kilo child. It
Absolutely.
costs hardly anything. So I think it's
Yes.
good.
Sir.
There is also one twin wrap from Zydus, but it's almost 2 or 3 times more expensive.
Yeah. So now regarding newer vaccines like
Yes.
dengue, malaria, they are so rampant diseases in our country, and
Yes.
I mean rest of the continents also. So
These
any
are
progress in
the-
this?
These are the diseases of developing part of the world.
Yes.
All the vaccine manufacturers are from developed part of the world. So they really have no interest in this vaccine because as I said, out of 10, 100 rupees, 60 comes from US, 15 from Europe. They are not going to use these vaccines. So that's the reason why there is very little research is going on. But fortunately, there are international agencies like WHO. Then there's something like IVI Korea, International Vaccine Institute in Korea. Then also there is DOMI, the something on impoverished countries' needs for various health requirements, etc. So there are these agencies which are now heavily, and of course, PATH, Bill Gates Foundation, etc. They are all heavily investing into third world country manufacturers to empower them to make some of this vaccine. So dengue came from Sanofi. You know the story. Dengue vaccine came from Sanofi. It was used for mass vaccination in Mexico and in Philippines. And later we realized that those children who had not had past dengue or exposure to flavivirus, after they received the vaccine, if they develop dengue, they develop severe dengue. So a lot of children died, and the principal investigator and the public health experts who were part of this trial, they are all under in jail. So it was withdrawn. Mexico still uses it with this caveat that it is to be given only for those who have had antibody positive. Malaria vaccine is recently marketed from GSK in Africa. 50 to 60% efficacy against falciparum malaria, which will still lead to 60% of the deaths being saved. So I think it's a good beginning. Slowly, some better vaccine will come with better efficacy. HIV is just eluding because it's a very hypermutable virus. So far, there is no HIV vaccine. And I holistically think that better there is no vaccine against HIV because whatever little lessons of morality mankind has learned also will disappear if you have a vaccine to prevent disease like HIV. Hep C, as I said, again, no one is investing because it's a very rare disease. Shigella, there are vaccines for Shigella in the international arena. They are useful. They are not only marketed in India. E. coli, people are working, but still the vaccine is in phase 1, phase 2 trial.
Yes. Sir, now
There's also one staphylococcus vaccine.
Yes, yes.
Because
yes.
staphylococcus is an important problem in all over the world, with boils to carbuncles, furuncles, abscesses, cellulitis, etc. So they are trying to make one vaccine again, and more and more staph is becoming MRSA. You know, now CA-MRSA, community acquired MRSA is so common. 20% of isolates are MRSA from community, and 40 to 50% of the hospital acquired staph is MRSA. So if you have a vaccine, then you know, worry about this drug resistance will also disappear.
Yes. Now, sir, I'm probably on the last slide of this interaction with you, sir. And I would like to have your special remarks on this. With such a never before slack of infectious diseases in our office and indoor practice, and nearly 60% reduction in vaccine recipient beneficiaries in private health sector, is there any hope for private pediatricians in this hopeless and helpless situation?
So, first of all, if there are children are less sick, is good for the community. So while our income may drop, I don't really grumble about it. Number two, this is temporary phenomenon. Believe me, we are already seeing an increase in the respiratory infection. Just 1 minute, Rupal. Hello, they shut the door now. She's making a lot of noise. Sorry, someone is making noise in the house.
Yes.
So it's a temporary. We are already seeing a rise in the respiratory infection in children when the schools have reopened within 2 weeks. Now, of course, there'll be vacation. So I'm sure by end of this year, we'll be back to what we were, at least 80%.
Yes.
Remaining 20% may be low because one, people have learned to have hygiene. Two, people have learned to live without doctors. So every small thing they should run to us, they may not do it. And three, the economic power will take a little longer for the people to. So everyone is going one scale down. Tertiary care hospital to secondary, secondary to primary, primary to private, private to public health to at home. You know that time. This is a temporary phenomenon, so don't lose hope.
Yes. Yes,
the other
thank
thing
you,
for
sir.
the younger pediatrician, if they are there, I don't know
Yes.
if they are younger pediatrician. If they're there, they must do a super specialty because forget this COVID-related slack. In general, pediatrics hospitals are dying off in the world. Several parts of the world, pediatric hospitals are shut down because there is no need to admit children except for specialty. So chronic renal failure, diabetic, malignancy, transplant, liver transplant. You see, all those are thriving. General pediatrics admission will definitely go down. So my humble plea is that if you are becoming a pediatrician, you should be satisfied to learn with little money. Number two, you should do specialty. Then probably you'll be able to survive better than a general pediatrician.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. In fact, interacting with you has made my day, sir. And it was probably dream come true for a general pediatrician like me. And sir, I'm involved in hosting or organizing a talk shows, and these academic shows are a bit different.
Yes.
And I was so excited to interact with you. And I run this chat show, Chai with Dr. Sandorkar.
So I have seen that on YouTube. Two or three of yours. They were excellent.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes the tear will come in your eye, you know, when you see those.
Yes. No. I wish I have some. I organize one talk show with you, sir. I would take your appointment, come to a clinic, and we will discuss.
I thought you were going to play a guitar and sing a song.
Not academics.
I thought you were going to play a guitar and sing a song.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you very much. And the forum is open for all.
There are questions in the chat box, Rajendra. Yes. Whether someone can take those.
Yes, please.
Someone may read out and I'll answer.
Neha, could you? Yeah, Neha, please take the questions.
One question is from Jitendra sir. He has asked, can we combine chickenpox and MMR in office?
No, so impromptu mixing of MMR chickenpox is not desirable because it has to be from the same manufacturer, and even then the volume will become double. It may lead to more serious side effect. It is not correct to do that.
But initially, sir, we had one vaccine. Now
it is made as a combination with the same amount of volume, 0.5 ml. So yes, they have studied non-interference between the two when they mix it in the same syringe with the stabilizer which are there, etc. So you can't impromptu mix vaccines like that.
Yes. Second question is, a child didn't receive 18 months booster dose and now coming vaccine? At 18 months booster dose.
So which vaccine? There DPT. Are so many. DPT, okay.
DPT. Now coming at 5 years of which, how to catch up the vaccine?
He can just take the 5-year booster and then take another 10 years definite.
Okay.
There are
After
several
nine,
countries which don't have 15 months booster. Australia was one of them. So they have 2, 3, 4 months and then straight 5 years.
okay.
Hello.
Yeah,
Neha.
Jay, please.
Sir, your take on the newer Gardasil.
अरे जय वीडियो ऑन करो यार, तुम गाना नहीं गाते तो मुंह तो दिखा दो तुम्हारा.
सर देखिएगा ये
वीडियो ऑन करो.
ठीक है, मैंने किया है. आई डोंट नो मोबाइल पे हूँ.
अरे जिम में है क्या? ए चलो चलो पूछो नो प्रॉब्लम.
पूछो जय प्लीज.
What is your take on the Gardasil? Because so too costly. Which is really to go for the ये पहला छोड़ के इस पे जाना चाहिए, ऐसा है कि नहीं है?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. What did you ask? Anyone?
Gardasil जो नया लॉन्च किया है.
Gardasil 9. हाँ.
हाँ.
So I already discussed that the Gardasil 9 covers from 81% with Gardasil 4 to 98% with Gardasil 9 as far as the oncogenic viruses are concerned. And I think that's worth at any cost, because I mean, you believe me, I treat onco patient. It is tremendously hazardous to treat an onco patient. Cost, side effect, oral, socioeconomic, everything is down. So cancer is best prevented. If tomorrow a vaccine with 9 variant comes for 5,000 or 4,000, we all will switch to that vaccine. Like how we have switched almost from Prevnar to Pneumocil. I'm sure Serum is making a HPV vaccine. So when that comes, we'll discuss that. But there is no reason why we should not use Gardasil 9 today. We should use it.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, Neha, you can take the remaining questions.
Yes, sir. Second question. Next question is a neonate receiving IVIG at day 2. How to proceed for the vaccination?
So, child who has received IVIG, depends on the dose. If he received 1 or 2 grams per kg, that's high dose IVIG we call, then it will have enough antibodies against live vaccines like measles, mumps, rubella, varicella, hepatitis A. So you can't use those vaccines for the next 10 months. But anyway, you don't give those vaccines before 10 months of the age of the child, right? So
Yes.
practically, it has no implication. I think the question should be if someone from Kawasaki has received, or someone during COVID has Covisaki has received IVIG high dose, or someone from ITP or acute immune hemolytic anemia has received IVIG, or for that matter SLE or something. Then those are the older children who may be due for their MMR, varicella, or live hepatitis A. That should be deferred for 10 months after the dose of IVIG.
Okay, sir. Next question is a single dose, 3 doses of HPV.
So HPV, recently there's a publication and there's a lot of talk going on that even 1 dose is enough. 2 doses are better, 3 are ideal, because all the studies which are randomized control trial, as we call them, pivotal trial, are all with 3 doses. Now HPV4 and HPV9 both have pivotal trial of non-inferiority compared to 3 doses in adolescents between 9 to 15 years, 9 to 14 years for both boys and girls. But for some reason, HPV9 has not been allowed as 2 doses in India by DCGI for 9 to 14 years. So in India, we have to use 3 doses when it comes to Gardasil 9. But for Gardasil 4, you can use 2 doses for 9 to 14 years. 1 dose is something which you will not use in your day-to-day practice. It's an experimental schedule, and I'm sure it will take some time before it becomes part of standard of care.
Okay, sir. Related to that, I have a question. If a girl child is coming for HP, has taken first dose before lockdown and comes after 1 year, then how to proceed?
Just complete the remaining 2 doses. Don't need to restart.
No need to restart.
Irrespective of the gap between the first and the second, or the second and the third, just complete the dose.
Okay. And a kid of receiving NCV at 11 months went outside India. Now he is coming at 4 years. So how to
He needs
proceed?
1 more dose, because you are not primed well and boosted well unless you take 2 doses before 12 months, before 2 years of age. So all children before 2 years, they need 2 doses 3 months apart. So even if he has come late, he will take the second dose.
Even after 4 years, he will receive.
Yes, he will take the second dose.
Sir.
Same way, Neha, if suppose someone has taken, say you have a 2-year-old child, he took influenza vaccine this year with you, he didn't come for the second dose. He comes the next year, you will again give him 2 doses because he's not primed well. But if he's taken 2 doses this year, he doesn't come the next year, he comes the third year, you will give him only 1 dose because he's primed by the previous 2 doses. So the correct priming gap, if is there, then subsequently you can just continue with what is left over. But if in primary, if there is a break, then you assume that he's not well primed. So like in your case, you will give the second dose even at 4 years of age.
Yes, sir. A child staying in Maharashtra, but originally from North India, Punjab, which northern or southern we
Southern,
should...
Punjab is southern vaccine. Only Delhi, northeastern states and Jammu and Kashmir.
But if
Even-
he is from originally, if he is from Delhi and now staying in Maharashtra, then which we have to
No, so
follow?
is he going to go back? Is only for transit here?
Yes, grandparents are if in Delhi.
So you can give him a choice that if he's going to be only indoor, then he can go back and take the northern vaccine.
Neha, you're
But if
talking
he's
about
coming-
your daughter.
No.
You're talking about your daughter.
If
Yes.
a child is coming like
For a
1
short
or 2 times
visit.
in the year.
No, she is coming for a short visit, then it doesn't matter. If he's coming, staying for 1 or 2 months, like vacation time, then surely you should take the vaccine which is required here now.
PCV, about PCV vaccine, it's advised in government hospital, but most of the like to me only most of the kids are coming at 7-8 months and without any
Right.
PCV vaccine.
So give him the age
So how-
appropriate 7 to 12 months, 2 primary doses, 1 booster in the second year. Between 12 and 24 months, 2 doses 8 weeks apart. After 12 years, you can't use pneumocil. You can use either 2 doses of Synflorix 8 weeks apart or a single dose of Prevnar 13.
Okay.
And beyond 5 years, you can use only Prevnar 13 single dose.
I
Anybody
think,
has any question of Dr. Wankhede, sir? You wanted to ask a few
I
questions.
see one question from Anjali. Yeah. If a patient has taken quadrivalent Gardasil in past, should he take nonavalent? I think it's an excellent vaccine. You suppose you or your daughters have taken quadrivalent in past, what do you do? So if you want to get prevention for the remaining 17%, which are the 5 strains, then you have to again take 3 doses. But it should be taken 1 year after the last dose of quadrivalent vaccine and not start before that.
Yes,
Pramod
Doctor.
sir, are you
Yeah,
going to
Pramod,
ask?
sir, you wanted to ask a few questions.
No, sir, I just want to ask you, Boostrix can Tdap with replace with Boostrix injections?
Hey, add a second booster.
Yeah, second booster.
Why would you want to give it? Now you have tetraxine. Why you want to give it? It is an inferior vaccine given at 4 to 6 years booster. If it is given for some reason, then you have to necessarily see that that fellow takes another Tdap at 10 years. As such, you're talking about AP vaccines are not that great as WP, and then you give a reduced antigen, and even diphtheria is 1/10. And you know there are a lot of diphtheria outbreaks which are happening in the country. So I would strongly advocate people not to use Tdap before 7 years of age.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, anybody wishes to ask any question? It was very lively discussion, sir.
Thank you.
And I would request Dr. Pramod Wankhede or Neha to just give
Dhananjay,
concluding
sir.
remarks.
Dhananjay is there. Dhananjay is there.
Dhananjay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Very nice, informative lecture, sir. We really enlightened with your information. With your
I
word.
really love this type of dialogue. To tell you, I completely get bored taking monologues or lectures
know,
unless
yes.
a new vaccine. Otherwise,
Yes.
this is the best way to a one-to-one dialogue.
Yes, we also prefer that, sir.
I remember once we did a 3 hours dialogue at Thane, me and Dr. Yevle. So we alternated role of moderator and panelist.
सर आज का तो ये इम्यूनिशन आईपी 2020 फटाफट
आज सर रैपिड फायर हो गया, मतलब 2020 जैसा हो गया.
चलो अच्छा है.
मैं तो ज्यादा प्रिपेयर टेस्ट जैसा प्रिपेयर करने वाला था सर, लेकिन आई थॉट लोग भी बोर नहीं होने चाहिए, मतलब ज्यादा लेंथी नहीं होना चाहिए. ऑफ कोर्स आप जब रहेंगे तो कोई बोर नहीं हो जाएगा, लेकिन फिर भी वी हैड टू कर्टेल.
Thank you.
Dhananjay, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this last week of April, we celebrate World Immunization Week. And on this occasion, we had wonderful session on immunization update in children. And we don't have to say anything about Dr. Nitin Shah, sir. The attendance on this platform speaks itself. Sincere thanks to Dr. Nitin Shah sir for his wonderful interaction and answering all the queries in detail. As Dr. Jai sir said, it's a T20, it's a rapid fire. I totally agree with him. So many times we had heard Dr. Nitin Shah sir, but each time we get updated in our knowledge in immunization, and which is actually bread and butter for the general pediatricians like us. So thank you, sir, very much. Thank you very much. Sincere thanks to Dr. Rajendra Chandorkar sir for his wonderful moderation. It was his idea that we will take interactive session like one-to-one dialogue. We will throw the questions to Nitin Shah sir, and he will definitely hit sixers each and every time. We know that. So sincere thanks to Dr.
Thank you. Yes, sir. I had specifically asked that if Nitin Shah sir is there, I would be the moderator for that session.
Yes. And it was a wonderful moderation, sir. Thank you very much. Sincere thanks to Dr. Neha madam for always her wonderful introduction and also hosting this session. Thank you, madam. Sincere thanks to Dr. Pramod Wanked sir, our president IIP Raigad, for his guidance. Sincere thanks to all the dignitaries who are present in this on this platform and attending this session in large numbers. Thank you very much.